Hi, and welcome to Awktopus Oddities, a show where we talk about synthesizers, Eurorack, modern production techniques, studio life, in general, 21st century music making, and beat performing jibber jabber. Today, we're going to be talking about the Noise Engineering Zularic Repetitor. In my opinion, the most clutch rhythm generating sequencers that you can get in Eurorack. It's a simple rhythm generator, 4 gates, and the algorithms are based off of world rhythms from Africa, Latin America, East Asia, all over the whole world. It was heavily inspired by a book called Music in Transforms by a man named William Cetheris. Apologies if I said your name wrong. Who wrote this book about all sorts of rhythms from around the world. The cats who designed stuff over at Noise Engineering got a hold of it and were like, this is pretty inspiring. I'm gonna make a module that represents that. So it has 30 algorithms in, and it has old world patterns and new world patterns, about 15 of each actually. The old world patterns are rhythms from around the whole planet, and then the new world patterns are a combination of pop, funk, soul, R&B, so you can just kind of get funky. Now, why do I think this module is so absolutely important? It is such a good example of these world rhythms that it has what we in music love to call feels. It actually has feeling, and for a machine and a lot of electronic music that sits so very square in the center of the beat, we have this amazing device that actually gives us all sorts of really groovy patterns and potential polyrhythms that we can play with. So here we go. I'm gonna give you a quick little history lesson about this particular instrument and why I think it's important. Let's start with a term that you may or may not be familiar with, organology, which is the study and classification of musical instruments. And this dates back about as far as mankind. Ancient civilizations, there's notes and ledgers and writings that have detailed how they used musical instruments in their society and in their rituals. Around the 1500s, these two German guys, I can't even say their names, so I'm not going to try because I felt silly even trying to write it down correctly. There's my In 1513, two German guys bring the first compendium of musical literature. Both the works and the name I can't quite pronounce, but that was the first time we saw a compendium and documentation of instruments and their classification. Fast forward to the 17th century, and we have Michael Pretorius in 1620. He wrote the book Theatrum Instrumentorium, and it is the first Western recorded example of African instruments and African rhythms. So again, we have had organology, which is the study and classification of instruments, which you can kind of fit that into the same school as ethnomusicology and acoustics. And through those three kind of schoolings, you would have a very, very advanced knowledge of how music works. Little David Byrne reference. So now we're going to fast forward to the year 1940. We have a gentleman named Kurt Sachs who wrote The History of Musical Instruments, and him and a couple homies, they decided that they were going to make the official modern way that we classify instruments. Why is that important? Because these guys were going around the world finding and gathering all of this information from ethnomusicologists and anthropologists who were going around the world seeing and meeting tribes, and they were gathering their instruments and their rhythms. It was very important because a lot of those tribes and rhythms don't even exist anymore. So it was a very interesting part of history and a very cool thing that we have going in that regard. One more fast forward to the year 1999, Eurorack is born, and within it a bunch of creative cats that got to get their hands on and design a whole new system of music that we get to engage in. So let's take a dig into the Zularic Repetitor. I'll see you on the other side. All right, so as you have seen, a lot of real good ideas and possibilities inside of this. I'm going to go real quick and talk about some real great pairings and why I put these in here. So the Zularic Repetitor pairs amazing with the Mutable Instruments elements. This is a giant modal synthesizer percussion machine. These two things are married for each other. 2, Basimilus iteratus alter. You can't go wrong. Classic drums, snares, everything. We could do the same way we modulated here with here. Third, and then one of the most important and I think really gives the Zularic Repetitor the flavor and delight is the WMD Fracture percussion and clap synthesizer. It's just so rich in texture. All of those stick sounds and watering and falling and tight little organic sounds come from that. So with those together, you've got a pretty powerful little world rhythm system. Add some solid backbeats, and you have some dynamics in your rhythms that no one else has. Further listening. Since we talked about some world rhythms and I'm a saxophone player, I'm going to tell you guys 2 people, if you don't know them, you should check them out. Number 1, Fela Kuti, king of Afrobeat, Zulu master. Second, Latin bro, saxophone master that not too many people know about, Gato Barbieri. Those are not synthesizers at all. Those are Afrobeat and some jazz. But Gato Barbieri, Fireflies. And see you all next time on Awktopus Oddities, Adventures into Synthesis.